The town of Briar Hollow sat quietly between two long highways, the kind of place people passed through without meaning to stop. It had one diner, one grocery store, and a park that most people forgot existed. At the edge of that park stood an old wooden bench. It was nothing special. The paint had peeled away years ago, and one leg was slightly shorter than the others. But every evening, just before sunset, a man named Walter Reed sat there. Walter was 76 years old. He had been a postal worker for most of his life, walking the same routes, delivering the same kind of news, some joyful, some heavy. After retirement, his days stretched long and quiet. Too quiet at first. The bench became his anchor. Walter arrived at the park every evening with the same brown paper bag. Inside was a sandwich, an apple, and a small notebook. He sat, ate slowly, and watched the world move without him. Children played, dogs passed by, couples walked and talked. Walter didn't interrupt any of it. He simply observed. But the bench held a memory. Years earlier, Walter and June had sat there together. She liked the park because it reminded her that life kept going even when things felt stuck. When June passed away, Walter avoided the park for a long time. Eventually, he realized avoiding it hurt more than returning. So he returned. One evening, Walter noticed the bench was already occupied. A teenage boy sat there, hunched forward, staring at his phone, but not really looking at it. Walter considered turning back. He didn't like intruding. The boy looked up. "You can sit. It's a long bench." Walter nodded and sat at the far end. They didn't speak at first. After a few evenings like this, the boy spoke again. His name was Ethan. He was waiting for his mother to finish a late shift at the nearby factory. The park was the only place that felt neutral, not home, not school. Walter understood that more than he said. Over time, others began to share the bench. A woman recovering from a divorce walked the park each evening and sometimes rested there. A man who had lost his job fed the birds nearby. A young girl practiced reading aloud while her grandmother listened. The bench became something quietly shared. Then, one morning, Walter arrived to find a notice taped nearby. The park was scheduled for renovation. The bench would be removed. Walter stood still for a long time. That evening, the bench was full. Word had traveled somehow. No one had planned it, but they all came. Ethan, the woman, the unemployed man, even a few strangers. No speeches were made. They simply sat. The next week, Walter attended a town meeting for the first time in years. When asked if anyone wished to speak, he stood slowly. He didn't talk about the bench. He talked about waiting, about how people sometimes needed a place where nothing was expected of them, a place where they could sit without explaining themselves. Others spoke too, not loudly, just honestly. The renovation plan changed. The park was improved, but the bench stayed. Years later, Walter stopped coming. The bench, however, was rarely empty. Ethan grew older, others came and went. New people sat down without knowing the history, but somehow sensing the calm. And on quiet evenings in Briar Hollow, the bench continued to offer what it always had. Not answers, not solutions, but space. As you rest tonight, remember this. You don't always need to fix things. Sometimes being present is enough. Sometimes sitting quietly beside life is the most meaningful act of all. Let the day drift away. Let tomorrow wait. Subscribe Midnight Stories for peaceful, serene stories.